I really believe it like saved me, because I didn't even realize the cycle of abuse I was in, because I was just trying to survive. So that's why Survivors Rising is an excellent name, because I truly was just trying to survive. I was trying to make it to the next day.
The Speakers Bureau training was really powerful because I was at the table for the first time with a group of survivors, and I didn't feel judged. I had gone in kind of thinking, well, was I abused enough to be here? Which is ridiculous. Like, how much abuse does it take for you to be abused enough?
There's this negative connotation when you say that you have been a victim or a survivor of sexual assault, trafficking, rape, childhood molestation. There's this stigma that, you have to be stuck in that, and you don't.
We are an organization that helps survivors of interpersonal violence, domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking and harassment post-crisis through community groups, awareness and education, and public policy.
I think telling my story and telling our stories is important, period, in life, right? Because a lot of times we feel like when we're in the midst of our trauma, in the midst of our brokenness and hurt, we're the only ones in it. And so I think it's even more specifically important when you're dealing with domestic violence situations, because that's one of the major things that your abuser will try to do, is isolate you and to strip your voice.
It's important that there's a Speakers Bureau because survivor voice is so important and it's so often left out of the conversation. We often see a lot of really well-meaning people making decisions that affect survivors, but there's not somebody who's actually experienced that sort of trauma at the table. Or maybe there is, but they're not comfortable talking about it. So Survivors Rising Speakers Bureau offers an opportunity to plug somebody in who can say, that's a great idea, but this is what it feels like to the survivor, or this is what it looks like, or this is why that isn't really accessible, and this is what we would need to make it accessible for survivors to be a part of this.
We do a lot with legislation and being able to speak on Capitol Hill about what actually impacts survivors, and who better to tell you what impacts survivors than a survivor themselves. So it really is just about getting out there as a survivor and taking that negative connotation with it and giving power to it and showing the strength of a survivor.
To be able to share my story and to look other women in their faces and see hope, like them filled with hope, to be like, okay, you've gone through it, our stories are similar, and if you are where you are now, then there's hope for me. And then it gives me hope.
The problem that we were seeing was there was only one major hospital that could assist women 24 hours, 7 days a week, if they had been a victim of some type of assault. That hospital was way on like 168th. That's not on a bus line. That's not accessible to a lot of the people that are being affected by what's going on. Now, with the voice of Survivors Rising, myself, and a few others, that initiative has been spread across the Omaha metro area. So now you can go to almost any hospital and receive that same service. It just takes one pebble in the water to get it going. So I would say that was one of the biggest impacts that we have had so far.
There's a lot of self-doubt that survivors carry. That's a tactic abusers use to keep you in the relationship for a long time. And so we often question ourselves and we question our own experiences. But if you have even the smallest inkling that you belong in a group with survivors, I would say come to a meeting, and you'll probably find that your instincts are right, your intuition was right.
Sharing in a circle that was secure and safe, in counseling. That's what really helped me. And so I think those are some of the spaces that Survivors Rising creates for victims, is a safe space to share, a safe place to go and receive resources and support. And so that made all the difference for me.
And now I don't even think of myself like as a survivor. I think of myself as an advocate. I'm out here changing the world one survivor at a time. And it all started with a simple Speakers Bureau training, with them just teaching me how to use my voice for power.